Nice. Alright, so as we work on an eventual pass for the Divine classes, here are some initial thoughts on Turn Undead and Cleric. We are going to be revamping Turn Undead to be generally more useful, simpler to understand, although I'm not sure I would agree with that, and be less dependent on the specific hit dice of the undead you're using an ability on. That's really one of the big points, is Turn Undead right now is considered to be, quote, useless, but in reality it's really just not effective, really into the epic levels and above. And the reason for that is it's a very binary system, where you either basically destroy the undead or nothing happens. Although you can fear them, and people tend to not consider that to be a real big deal, but it is something that can happen. But it does work in Heroic. It's just that when you look at a binary system like that, similar to the old school 3.5 armor class that we changed to more of a curve, the same kind of thing is happening really with Turn Undead. So we're going to be taking a look at that. And then the other big piece, we are adding domains to clerics to give them more flavor and build options. Please keep in mind a few things before we go through this list. This will change. I assure you, these are not the final numbers, nor the final stats, nor exactly how everything's going to work. 2, some things may have already changed by the time this was written, because I think some folks were actually working on it recently. And so what you see here should be considered just kind of a ballpark, sort of a teaser, and kind of an idea of what we are going for, rather than, say, a bunch of specific numbers that you should hold us to. So, when you see something on Lamania that is perhaps not as strong as this, we have not nerfed Turn Undead, because you cannot nerf something that has not yet existed. But nonetheless, this is pretty exciting stuff, so I wanted to go through it.
I'm going to respond to chat real quick.
Yeah.
That one guy was saying, do higher skulls increase name loot drop chances? Yes, Reaper mode increases drop chances. No, we're not going to tell you whether or not it increases by skull. And the more you ask me that question, the least that answer will change. I'm assuming that's the same guy. Because one guy sent it like 5 or 6 different ways. I don't know. But no, we're not going to tell you anything about what the skulls change specifically. And that answer will not change.
Yeah, right. Because we don't figure it out if you want to.
And also, I've been playing DDO for 6 years, and I have around 300,000 Reaper experience. So I've been playing the game for quite some time, and I would say very good. I'm a heroic and epic completionist. So.
Bentley, about word of recall locations, it's something that's been on our long-term, man, we should really do that, but I don't know if that's going to get into this pass here.
There was a discussion I had with Steel, and as far as the most likely choice, but, again, not set in stone, would be to set word of recall to just bring you to your bind point. But as with all, you can teleport out of a quest, you'll incur re-entry penalties and stuff like that. So that's really a bailout button rather than like a tactical. I suggested Dimension Door, and that was nixed immediately.
Yeah, we don't need more D-Door in this game.
It's like
yeah. We used to have it on scrolls back in 2006. How OP was that?
They're a rare drop now, and I have like a stack of like 15 or so. Like I hoard them, but.
Also, a quick shout out to Mauricio on YouTube. I did see that. Send an hello to the players of Brazil. We love DDO. Yeah, hey Mauricio. Shout out to the Brazilians out there. You guys rule. Alright, so Turn Undead will now tentatively do something like this. DC will be 10 plus your Charisma modifier plus your Cleric level plus your Paladin level if applicable, or vice versa, plus your turning bonus. If the saving throw is failed, 1d4 plus 4 positive energy damage per Cleric or Paladin level, and the undead are stunned for 10 seconds. If the saving throw is made, half damage and no stun. So it's going to be consistent damage output for Turn Undead. We're getting rid of the destruction part of it, so you're not just going to be able to super zap, all the undead, but it is going to be a consistent and new form of kind of damage over time, and it is going to be a 10-second stun, which is not insignificant for undead. There's no longer going to be a hit die limitation. The various feats and enhancements that boost Turn Undead will be modified to work with either the DC or the damage, so some of them will bump up damage, some of them will bump up that DC, and that's how that's going to work. So that's kind of huge. A bit of a derivation from pen and paper, where we really do have the destruction thing. But like I was saying earlier, is if we were going to preserve the sort of you destroy undead, we're getting back into kind of a binary calculation again, and it's just, I think, perhaps a little better to go with damage. You invest more in Cleric, you do more damage on your turn undead. Same with Paladin and whatever have there. So, there you go. It was a kind of a controversial change, not an easy one, but I think overall it's going to be far more useful, not just situationally as in, hey, I can destroy a handful of undead in heroic levels. Now you're going to be able to use this and have it scale up all the way as it goes. Do you ever do Turn Undead, Lynnabel?
The last time I ran a cleric was right after the release of Reaper mode, and I went from 1 to 20 and then not to 30 because that was actually my first elf racial TR, and I found Turn Undead to be extremely overpowered in heroics, to the point where I was in an R3 Wiz King and did the entire thing at level 12 cleric, and I was like Tower Shield and Mace cleric. I dealt like maybe 40 total damage over the course of that entire life. It was all Turn Undead.
Yeah. So there, let me see. I think there's actually one other thing about Turn Undead.
I mean, different domains increase increase what can be turned. Some elemental domains allow you to turn elementals and stuff like that.
Yeah, so let's actually get into that then. So here's going to be the domains. Starting at level 2, a cleric will pick a domain that'll provide additional free class feats as you level up. Air domain, level 2, you get +1 to the DC of evocation, increases by 1 at 6, 12, 18. That's going to be a common thing you'll see throughout. Lightning spells will use light spell power if it's higher. Lightning spells as well. Or actually, it's kind of vice versa. So lightning will use light. Light will use lightning depending on which spell power you have the highest. Your Turn Undead now works on elementals. When you turn undead, your party gains a bonus to reflex saves equal to half your cleric level, points of electric resistance, twice your cleric level. Featherfall SLA at level 5, Cyclonic Blast as that's a tough one to say, as an SLA, and then Chain Lightning as an SLA at level 14. Animal Domain, Spot Listen, reflex saves for every 2 cleric levels. Turn Undead works on animals. When you turn undead, your party gets Constitution equal to half your cleric level for 20 seconds, so an extra +10 con. That'll bump up your hit points some. 20 hit points per cleric level at level 5. That's not terrible either, because you're looking at an extra 400 hit points
400.
at level 20? Yeah. See, I can math good, right?
I can't. It's actually pretty debilitating. A lot of DDO behind the scenes is a lot of math, and I'm like, hey, Steel Star, what's 8 times 6? And there's like this look of like...
And it even scales into epic. So you add twice your cleric level to your hit points for every epic level you gain. So 400... And then it would be another 400, basically, for those last 10.
Yes.
So you can get up to 800 extra hit points in the Animal Domain at level 30, if you're a pure cleric. 15% Fort Bypass at level 9, and then Snow Slide as an SLA, doesn't require Wolf Form. Chaos Domain, +1 to will saves for every 2 cleric levels. Turn Undead will get your party 1d20 points of universal spell power, 1d10 points rolled separately of melee, ranged, and PRR, MRR, that's not terrible either. Chaos Hammer as an SLA, spell crit chance increased by 3, Prismatic Spray as an SLA. Death Domain, I think this one's going to be pretty popular
This one I'm a huge fan of. I really like this one.
I know, I have been using, so I do play a lot of clerics, as people know, and I tend to use Undeath to Death a lot as kind of that insta-kill spell for undead, and this is just going to jack that up even more effective than it already is. +1 to the DC of your necromancy spells. That also does increase destruction. And if you use the saving throw on the negative pew pew, whatever that one is. Can't think of the name right now. +1 to the DC of necro. Increased by 1 at 6, 12, 18.
And Death Domain also does the original Turn Undead blow up effect too, which is the real draw. That's why I think this one is very popular.
Yeah, I think so too. Death Ward as an SLA never hurts. Necrotic Ray, yeah, that's actually the one I was thinking of. As an SLA, Destruction. destruction as an SLA. Although, if you're a cleric, you know, I mean, you got
I
plenty
mean,
of spell
I'm actually
slots,
gonna be
but-
doing work on destruction. The way it is right now is if you cast it on someone and then they fail their save but have death ward, it just nothing happens. There's basically it's like like out of the total options of what destruction does on a monster, only one of them does anything good. One of them is an insta kill, and then like 4 out of 6 times nothing happens at all, and it just because of the way that you only take damage if you fail, and other spells say if they pass if they fail their save they die. If they pass their save they take damage. This one is like if you pass the save, if they pass the save, they take damage, which doesn't make any sense. So that one might get changed.
Yeah, right. I think there was also some talk about how we're going to deal with charges and all that, whether or not we should move to a cooldown or something like that. But I don't think any decision's been made on that yet. So, where was I? Okay, destruction domain. So besides death, there's also destruction. +1 melee ranged power at 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So that would be 5, 6 plus 6 melee range power if you want to go up to 20. You can cast your cleric spells while raging. Your spells no longer penalized by rage spells. When you turn undead, your party gets a divine bonus to melee and range power equal to half your cleric level for 20 seconds. Durability damage for your items reduced by 75%. Don't know about that, but sure, why not? Level 9, your weapons do an extra plus W, and level 14, your weapon strikes add a stack of improved destruction, which I believe is that -4 or -6? I can't remember which one that is now. But.
Improved destruction is like vulnerability is a % increase in damage, and armor destruction hits their fortification and AC.
Yeah, okay. Earth Domain, +2 acid spell power per cleric level. Acid spells will use light if it's higher. Light spells will use acid if it's higher. Turn Undead now works on elementals. Is that a typo? Or are we doing elementals on both earth and air?
I think all the elemental domains, earth, air, fire, they all work on elementals.
Okay, yeah. There you go. When you use Turn Undead, your party gains a bonus to Fortitude saving throws equal to half cleric level and some acid resistance. Melfs as an SLA, Stone Skin as an SLA, Earthquake at level 14.
That one I think this one is the best one. Earthquake is one of the best spells in the game, and it's objectively the best CC in the game as well.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to trying that one.
20-second cooldown too. Again, please keep in mind, all these numbers, all these things could change. This is as it is today in the Players' Council prior to actually doing a lot of work on it. So please be aware that this may change dramatically, but that's the way it currently is. Fire Domain, +2 fire spell power per cleric level. Fire spells use light, light spells use fire if it's higher. I imagine that might be pretty popular, because if you were to, say, use Cometfall, because Cometfall will use fire, right? Or is that...
Cometfall is part fire, part bludgeoning, which is force or untyped.
Yeah. So if, like, say, for example, my cleric who uses a lot of... why is my name? The light spell damage over time. Light spell dot.
Divine Punishment?
Yeah, Divine Punishment. There you go.
There we go.
Combined, you can consolidate basically your spell power rather than having to split it between, say, light and fire or whatever. You could just jack up one all the way and benefit both those things. Turn Undead will get the party fire resistance equal to twice your cleric level. Turn Undead working on elementals. So the SLAs are Scorching Ray, Wall of Fire. That's interesting at level 9. And then Firestorm as an SLA at level 14. Remember, SLAs do tend to work with meta magics and have much reduced spell point cost. Good Domain, +2 light spell power per cleric level. That isn't going to suck either, because that'll be an extra +40 light spell power to my already just light spell power devastating cleric who is doing very well right now in a lot of content. +1 to the heal skill as well. When you use Turn Undead, your party gets temp hit points equal to 5 times your cleric level, so up to like 100 temp hit points every 20 seconds. Or for 20 seconds, rather, with your Turn Undead. SLAs are Deific Vengeance, Blade Barrier, and then at level 14, Evil Damage is reduced by 20%, and you get +4 on saves versus evil creatures. That's an interesting one. I haven't actually... I guess I didn't notice that one. We don't have a lot of evil damage, though, do we?
It's like all alignment-based damage. If you're true neutral, with most players are, you're generally immune to stuff like that. So spells like Chaos Hammer, which does like chaotic damage, won't even hit you if you're neutral.
Alright, Heal Domain, +2 positive spell power per cleric level. Turn Undead will get your party points of healing amp equal to your cleric level for 20 seconds. You get Cure Moderate as an SLA, Panacea as an SLA. Panacea is often overlooked, but is quite useful. It's a good way to just remove a lot of status effects at a low spell point cost, so having that as an SLA might be pretty useful.
If I can interject for a second,
Yep.
Chaos Hammer is not broken. Chaos Hammer has no effects against a target that doesn't match the alignment of the spell. There are a few spells that don't display animations if the target is just immune to it, and Chaos Hammer is one of them. If you are true neutral, Chaos Hammer will show up near you but won't do anything. Also, yes, bludgeoning is physical damage, but all physical damage and untyped damage goes through the force spell power as well. So yes, force spell power is correct.
Yeah, correct. Indeed. Where were we? Oh, and level 14, your healing spells are quickened, as if you had the quicken meta magic, which you probably already do, but nonetheless
Now you don't have to take it.
Cost.
Yeah, now you don't have to take it.
Yeah, but you still are going to want to for, a few other spells maybe.
I mean, I didn't take it.
Yeah.
But I'm a really bad DDO player, so what's the meta magic?
But you're right, I mean, the number one reason would be for healing, and so now you're not going to have to worry about that if you want to go into the healing domain. Knowledge domain, +2 to all skills. Turn Undead, your party gains points of intelligence equal to half your cleric level. Nice group full of harpers doing some extra damage there. SLA, Suggestion, and Feeble Mind, level 14, half your cleric level as spell penetration, +1 to the DC of all spells. This increases to +2 at cleric 16, +3 at 20. Law Domain, level 2, you get +1 to the DC of enchantment, +1 additional at 6, 12, and 18. Turn Undead gets your party Wisdom. Orders Wrath as an SLA, Greater Command as an SLA, Chaos damage reduced by 20% +4 saves at level 14. Luck Domain, +1 to Fortitude, Reflex, and Will saves, +1 at 6, 12, and 18. When you use Turn Undead, your party gets a Divine bonus to saves equal to half your Cleric level. Not entirely terrible depending on, getting through traps, things like that. But the other good one here is Displacement as an SLA. Level 5 in the Luck Domain. So I imagine quite a few clerics who don't get displacement in other methods might well want that. Level 9, 1d8 to the DC of your spells. That doesn't suck either. Level 14, if you're killed, you miraculously survive, gaining 50% of your max hit points. This cannot occur more than once per 5 minutes, so just in case you wanted to die twice in a second, you can now do so. No, I'm kidding. You will get 50% of your max hit points back, so not terrible there either. Magic Domain, level 2, +1 to the DC of Evocation, +1 at 6, 12, 18. Turn Undead gets the Divine bonus to Universal Spell Power, equal to twice your Cleric level. SLAs are Chain Missiles. 9 is number of bonus spell points equal to your character level times 10. So that's, an extra 200? Just character level, so that'd be 300. Yeah. And then level 14 is Universal Spell Power equal to twice your Cleric level. Protection Domain, +1 to AC, PRR, MRR, an extra 1 at 5, 10, 15, and 20. Turn Undead gets a Divine bonus to PRR, MRR equal to twice your Cleric level. Night Shield, Radiant Force Field as SLAs, and at level 14, AC and PRR increased by Cleric level. That's I think probably more tanky types, cleric types might well appreciate that one. Strength Domain, +2 to Strength, immune to Strength damage. Turn Undead gets you a Divine bonus to Strength equal to half Cleric level. Level 5, Reflex saves based on Strength. 9, immune to knockdown effects. 14, you always make your saving throw against stun effects. Man.
Yeah, there are a lot of these. They just keep happening, and these are also not the only things tentatively planned for Cleric. Yeah. This is just in addition to the other changes. Like, even if just adding these on, that's not the only thing we're doing.
Sun Domain, +2, Fire and Light. Turn Undead is a Flame Strike comes down at your location.
Yeah, that one. There's a lot of flame strikes in that one. There's flame strikes all over the place.
Nice. Searing Light as an SLA is not terrible either, though. Flame Strike as an SLA. Sunburst also as an SLA. Sunburst is situationally quite useful as well. Trickery Domain, +1 DC to enchantment, +1 at 6, 12, 18. Turn Undead gets your party points of charisma equal to half cleric level. Invisibility as an SLA. Mind Fog as an SLA. Charm Monster Mass as an SLA for the Trickery Domain. War is +1 damage with melee ranged. Increases at 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So an extra +6 damage total as a pure class for melee and ranged. Turn Undead, divine bonus to melee and ranged power again, equal to half cleric. You get proficiency with all martial and exotic weapons at level 5. I imagine we may see some splashing for that too, depending.
The level 14 one is spicy.
Yeah, Holy Sword is an SLA. Tactical DCs increased by half cleric level. Level 9 as your one-handed weapons have a base damage die of 1d10. Two-handed weapons 2d8. Jeepers.
Yeah, I know.
So if you take 5 levels of Cleric, you would get +2 to damage with melee and ranged, a divine bonus to melee and ranged power of, another +2 for 20 seconds, proficiency in all martial and exotic weapons. Not terrible as a potential splash. And then finally, Water Domain, you gain water breathing. No,
that's a good one.
+1 to swim and cold spell power. Your cold spells will use positive. Healing spells will use cold if it's higher. Turn Undead on elementals. Party bonus to will saves equal to half cleric. Cold resist as well. Solid fog is an SLA. Cone of cold is an SLA, and greater creeping cold is an SLA as well. And I'm not going to get into the player council comments there, but yeah, that's a lot of stuff to talk about, isn't it? Holy moly. Again, some of that stuff could change, but when might be the other question. The current plan is to potentially release this as part of a series of adjustments to Cleric and Favored Soul between Update 36 and Ravenloft. No exact ETA on that, but I would say as a ballpark, potentially kind of later in the summer.
36 and a half, just somewhere.
Yeah, we'll see what the new numbers end up coming out as and all that. But it's not for Update 36 is the main point here. It's going to be after Update 36. So let me get to a couple of questions. For the Sun Domain, can you maximize Turn Undead for the Flame Strike? I would imagine so, right?
I don't think... No, Turn Undead is a feat. So you can't... I don't think you can maximize feats like that. Can you?
Right.
I don't know, actually. I've never... I think because some of the epic feats are spells like Ruin and Greater Ruin, and I think you can maximize those. That's actually a pretty good question.
Yeah, I'll have to ask about that. Maybe my guess is no, because it wouldn't be an SLA. It's just going to be an effect that would cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. If what you're looking to make Cleric OP, make it so they get heal themselves normally in Reaper. No.
Why don't we just delete clerics? Just turn the whole class off. Just get rid of them. That's a good idea. I mean...
the Sleeping Moose is saying some of these are way too powerful. That is, again, why I want to stress that this is a very early design doc, not a final implementation. I would not be surprised at all if some of this stuff ended up getting kind of tweaked and scaled back and boosted and kind of equalized and all that
This is one of the most argument filled, I think.
Yeah.
PC threads. There's a lot of suggestions in there, for sure. I personally disagree that this is just making them like other classes. Like, you only choose one of them, and even then, you actually have to be majority cleric, and even though some of these are very strong, 2 or 3 abilities total, like, you still are a cleric, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, frankly, it's going to be tough for us cleric types to choose on these domains, because there's just a smorgasbord of good choices in here, which is unfortunate, but also unfortunate, because it's like, oh my gosh, which one do I pick, right?
Yeah, so. I know my latest cleric life was Necro, and I had a lot of fun, but it was way more limiting than any DC casting I've ever done before. Like clerics do have insta kills, but they're very limited by the actual race and typing of the monster that you're fighting. So, I was really good versus, fleshy opponents that didn't have death block, and I was really good versus elementals because you can just banish them. But, like, anything other, like a spider attack me, and I'd be like, wow, I sure can't deal with this problem. Like, this is just really, this is nothing I can do here.
So, let me go back to a question that Fire the Dragon Leader, kind of a negative comment here, but it's worth addressing. Whelp, Turn Undead is useless again in Epics.
Disagree. Super disagree.
Here's my question. Is it currently useful in Epics? My understanding is no.
So I have the cleric past lives, and I have, weird myriad cleric gear that I just kind of, have collected over the years. And my experience is that it didn't work.
Yeah, mine too.
It didn't do anything.
I even had a character that, had, somewhere around the 52 range of charisma, and then all the kind of sacred and hallowed and all that sort of thing. And, on, say, epic normal, maybe occasionally even an epic hard on lower 20s, I could get something. But as soon as I really hit 25 and up, it was just...
Yeah, no, I mean,
didn't
like...
even work, right? Because, again, the numbers just don't work, right? So.
Nope. And most of the time when I'm playing a cap, I'm in 7 or 8 skulls. And it doesn't even... It's no part of the gameplay. I think that people are really discounting the damage that's being put front-loaded into Turn Undead.
Yeah.
And I think that it will essentially function as an insta-kill for much of the levels, and then gradually taper off as insta-kills get stronger and monsters get stronger too. And then from there, depending on your domain, it gets better, or you turn it into a buff spell, and then the ability evolves with your playstyle. And I think definitely wait and see. Wait for Lamania to really complain, But there's a lot of power in there for sure.
Will Monk over on Facebook says, most of the new cleric stuff is great aside from the hit point bonus from Animal Domain. 800 hit points at level 30 is a tad too much. I wouldn't be surprised if we took another look at that, because that is an awful lot of hit points to sort of get.
Yeah, that one specifically had a very long chain of comments about people going, that mathematically is terrible, like, you can't do that. People are making charts, they're like, wrong, also wrong, stop. Like, but that's the whole point of the PC is to basically, I'm not going to say bounce ideas off of, but they're there for stuff like that.
And part of what makes for a good Players Council member is the ability to read this stuff and not start to go into kind of freak out mode, right? Because they having an understanding that this is part of the design process that normally you might not see until it hits Lamania and all that sort of thing. But so what you're seeing here is really something that's a little bit more in flux. But we are going to, like I said, get this out to the forums moderately soon, and I wouldn't be surprised if we actually had some tweaks to these numbers and that by the time it even reached the live forums, which hopefully will be... I mean, we've kind of been saying we need to get it out any day now for a couple of days now, so...
any day now.
Yeah, well, it's coming soon. It's just a matter of carving out the time to do the formatting and make sure that we're okay with the numbers and all that sort of thing. To the point that it would go on a public forum thread.
Mm-hmm.